The asphalt ribbon of Blackwood Road snaked through the dense Appalachian forest, a lonely path shrouded in perpetual twilight. Rain lashed against the windshield of Amelia's beat-up Jeep, blurring the already desolate landscape. A chill settled in her bones that had nothing to do with the weather. Blackwood Road was notorious. Locals called it the Weeping Road, a name attributed to the mournful cries that echoed through the mountains on foggy nights. Amelia, a folklorist with a thirst for the unexplained, scoffed at the legend. But tonight, with the storm raging and the oppressive silence broken only by the mournful sigh of the wind, the story felt less like a myth and more like a looming threat. Suddenly, a flicker of movement in the rearview mirror sent a jolt of adrenaline through her. A lone figure, a woman in a tattered white dress, stood by the roadside, her face obscured by the downpour. Amelia hesitated, torn between the warnings whispered by the locals and her own compassion. Against her better judgment, she pulled over. The woman approached, her drenched dress clinging to her skeletal frame. Tears streamed down her face, carving lines through the layers of mud and grime. Her voice was a mere whisper, lost in the howling wind. Amelia strained to hear, piecing together a story of betrayal, a brutal murder, and a restless spirit yearning for peace. The woman pointed towards the darkness of the forest, a single word escaping her lips: revenge. Before Amelia could react, the figure vanished, leaving behind a lingering chill in the air. A primal fear gnawed at Amelia's gut. This wasn't a damsel in distress. This was a vengeful spirit trapped in an endless cycle of sorrow. As Amelia continued down the Weeping Road, the whispers began. They started faintly, indistinguishable murmurs against the howling wind. But with every mile, they grew louder, a cacophony of grief and rage. The whispers transformed into screams, a chilling chorus echoing through the trees. Headlights blazed in the distance, a beacon of hope in the oppressive darkness. Relief flooded her, but as the car drew closer, she saw it was an old-fashioned hearse, its driver a skeletal figure with hollow eyes. Panic seized her. This wasn't a coincidence. It was an invitation. Blackwood Road wasn't just haunted. It was a conduit for vengeful spirits, a symphony of sorrow conducted by the ghosts of the past. Amelia slammed on the gas, desperate to outrun the hearse and the growing chorus of screams. Blackwood Road wouldn't let her leave easily. It would claim her fear, her sanity, or maybe even her soul, another melody added to the never-ending symphony of sorrow. The relentless Mojave sun beat down on the cracked asphalt of Route 13, turning the desolate landscape into a shimmering mirage. Sarah, her throat parched and her car overheating, scanned the horizon in desperation. Miles of nothing stretched as far as the eye could see, punctuated only by the skeletal remains of abandoned gas stations and the bleached bones of forgotten dreams. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the heat haze, a solitary hitchhiker silhouetted against the unforgiving sun. A man, tall and gaunt, with a weathered face etched with stories the desert wind had whispered. Relief washed over Sarah. Maybe this wasn't a dead end after all. She pulled over, the rusty hinges of the car door screaming in protest. The man approached, his smile unsettlingly wide, revealing teeth sharpened by years of desert living. "Car trouble, miss." His voice was a rasp, like sandpaper against dry wood. Hesitantly, Sarah explained her predicament. He grinned again, a glint of something predatory in his eyes. "Headin' to Oasis Springs myself. Hop in, I'll give you a lift." Desperate, Sarah ignored the prickling of unease in her gut. Inside the truck, a stifling heat hung heavy, the air thick with the scent of dust and something metallic. The man, who called himself Cyrus, didn't speak, his gaze fixed intently on the endless road. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery hues, the temperature dropped dramatically. A cold wind howled outside, carrying with it the mournful cries of unseen creatures. Cyrus finally spoke, his voice devoid of warmth. "You lost, miss." I thought Oasis Springs was up ahead, Sarah stammered, a shiver running down her spine. Cyrus's laughter was a dry, hollow sound. Oasis Springs? Ain't no such place on this road, miss. Never has been. Panic clawed at Sarah's throat. The map had lied, or perhaps there never was a map. Then, Cyrus pointed to a weathered signpost by the road, barely visible in the fading light. It read, Deadwood 5 miles. Deadwood, the name sent a jolt of terror through her. Deadwood was a ghost town, a place abandoned decades ago after a horrific mining accident. Sarah realized with chilling certainty that Cyrus wasn't taking her to civilization, he was taking her closer to the heart of darkness. As they reached the deserted town, spectral figures emerged from the crumbling buildings, their eyes glowing with an infernal light. Cyrus turned to her, his smile now devoid of pretense, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth. "Welcome to Deadwood, miss," he rasped. "The price for a ride on Route 13 is a soul to claim." Sarah screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the desert wind. Trapped on the haunted road, surrounded by the restless dead, she was no longer just a traveler in need of help. She was the next lost soul to be claimed by the shadows of Route 13. The neon glow of the Last Chance diner cast a sickly yellow pallor on the deserted highway. Rain lashed against the windshield, blurring the desolate landscape into a canvas of inky black and flickering silver. Inside the car, Sarah gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white. A pit of unease gnawed at her stomach. Her GPS had died miles back, leaving her stranded on this forgotten stretch of Route 66, a road notorious for its chilling legends. The locals called it the Wailing Road, a name attributed to the mournful cries that echoed through the canyons at night. Sarah scoffed at the time, dismissing it as a campfire story. Now, with the storm raging outside and a growing sense of isolation, the legend felt less like a myth and more like a chilling premonition. Suddenly, headlights blazed in the rearview mirror. Relief washed over Sarah. Finally, some company. But as the car drew closer, a wave of dread replaced her initial relief. It wasn't a modern vehicle, but a rusted-out pickup truck, its headlights like predatory eyes. It tailgated her relentlessly, its engine sputtering and coughing like a dying beast. Panicked, Sarah slammed on the gas, desperate to outrun the unsettling truck. The road snaked through the mountains, visibility dropping to near zero. A sharp turn loomed. Sarah swerved, tires screeching in protest, narrowly avoiding the guardrail. She glanced back. The truck was gone. But the silence that followed was worse. The rain had stopped, an eerie stillness blanketing the world. Sarah noticed a single flickering light in the distance, a beacon in the darkness. Relief flooded her again. Maybe a gas station, a place to call for help. As she neared, the light resolved into a dilapidated roadside motel, its neon sign buzzing erratically with the inscription, "Vacancy." Desperation outweighed her apprehension. She pulled into the gravel parking lot, the crunch of tires the only sound. The motel looked like a relic from a bygone era, its windows boarded up, paint peeling like scabs. Still, it offered a roof and a phone, a lifeline in this desolate wasteland. She pushed open the creaking door, a wave of stale air and the faint scent of mildew hitting her face. The lobby was dimly lit, cobwebs draping the walls like macabre tapestries. A dusty register book sat on the counter. Sarah flipped through the yellowed pages, every entry filled with the same scrawl date, October 23, 1947. A shiver ran down her spine. The date was decades old. A bell on the counter chimed. Sarah spun around, heart pounding. A figure stood behind the counter, a gaunt man in a tattered uniform, his eyes hollow and black. "Welcome," he rasped, his voice like dry leaves rustling. "We've been expecting you, Sarah." A wave of nausea washed over her. How did he know her name? Before she could scream, the motel door slammed shut, plunging the room into darkness. Only the flickering neon sign cast an otherworldly glow on the man's face, twisted into a horrifying grin. Sarah wasn't just stranded on the Wailing Road, she was trapped in its deadly embrace. The motel wasn't a haven, it was a tomb, and she might be its next guest.